Hello, my name is Lo, and I, like most people in the world right now, am currently in lockdown. First, an update. In my video, This Isn't a Great Time to Be a Traveler, I talked about how I had been planning on going to Adelaide, but then had to cancel that trip for obvious reasons. And then my friend was going to let me stay with her, but that didn't end up working out, so I wasn't sure where I would be staying that night. Well, luckily all of that worked out. Her boyfriend ended up staying with her, so his flat was empty, and he was kind enough to let me stay in his flat for the time being. So this is where I've been staying and where I will potentially continue staying until the end of the crisis, I guess. I don't know. Everything's up in the air, and it's kind of a weird situation, but it's good enough. And honestly, at this point, that's kind of all we can really ask for, is to have situations that are good enough for the time being. We'll take it one day at a time, I guess. So I figured, why not share what I've been up to while in isolation, both to hold me accountable to my goals and maybe to help other people stay as positive as possible during these times. But first, a quick tour of where I'm living. Here's the kitchen, fridge, food, stove, sink. Please don't make fun of all the dishes I have to do. The bathroom. That's all my stuff. And the shower, which is like raised off the ground for some reason. I don't quite understand. And here is what I presume is the living room, but is currently my bedroom. My bed is just two mattresses stacked on top of each other. And then I have a little bedside table with all my candles and incense and oils and stuff. Guitar, journals and books with all my other books underneath. Underwear, shirts, pants and dresses, dirty clothing, shoes. Stuff I don't currently need, slash where I hang my jacket and my backpack, and then just the rest of the room, which I don't touch because it's not my home. There's also a cute, oh, that's locked, a cute little balcony where I can hang my clothes when I do laundry, and some dead plants. And then there's two other rooms, but again, not my home, so I don't go in there. And now let's get into what I did during my first week in lockdown. So my first day of isolation was Monday, and I spent pretty much the entire day cleaning the kitchen. I don't mean to expose my friend because he's very, very, very kind to let me stay here, but God, the kitchen was a disaster. The sink was full of dishes that were soaking in standing water for I don't know how long. The stove had a bunch of crumbs and stuff all over it. And basically everything was covered in a little layer of grease and dust. I don't want to seem ungrateful or anything, but I'm pretty sure there was some like antibiotic resistant bacteria growing in that kitchen. So I spent that Monday deep cleaning everything, getting everything back to a state where it could be used to produce food that would be going into my body. And I actually do really enjoy cleaning kitchens. Like, I don't know if it's just because I've worked in food service for so long, but I really enjoy just turning on music and dancing while I'm like scrubbing kitchens and cleaning countertops and stuff like that. So it was a pretty fun time and a really good, productive way to spend my day. Later that day, the person whose flat it is came by after work because for some reason he was still being required to go to work. I don't know. And we played guitar for a bit and talked about our existential fear, all while keeping a nice 5-foot distance because social isolation. On day 2, Tuesday, I slept in late, and then the person whose flat it is came by again to drop off one of those like big rolls of toilet paper since the flat was running low. And then after he left, I started writing a song, which if you watched my Am I Creative video, you know how significant that is to me. I got most of the song out except for the chorus, and I was very proud of that. Day 3, I talked on the phone with one of my best friends and my old roommate from back in Nashville. And we talked a lot about how we felt like we were just wasting away and not doing anything. And the fact that throughout all of our lives, there's always been so many things that we keep saying, oh, when I have time, I'll go back to it. I'll work on it later when I have time. And now that we have the time to do it, we're still not doing it. So we kind of made a plan to call each other every Wednesday from now on in order to hold ourselves and each other accountable for actually doing the stuff that we have always said that we wanted to do. After that phone call, I was feeling a little inspired, so I journaled about how I was feeling and ended up writing out a list of a bunch of stuff that I wanted to accomplish during this quarantine. And then later that day, I video chatted with those 2 Melbourne friends and we watched Les Mis together, which was really nice and really fun. Ironically, even though on Wednesday I talked so much about being more productive and trying to set a schedule for myself, the next day I did not do that. I did talk on the phone with one of my friends from college who I haven't been able to keep in super close contact with ever since they graduated and moved away. So that was really nice, even though obviously the circumstances are not fantastic. And I did post on Facebook a video that I had previously made of me singing Rainbow by Kesha. But other than that, I just kind of sat around in bed all day, stewing in my own depression. That night I Uber Eats'd some Indian food just so that I could make eye contact with the delivery person and feel the thrill of being alive again. And I don't normally get Uber Eats just because I don't like Uber as a company, but I justified it to myself because they didn't have a delivery fee, I would be supporting a local business, I tipped the delivery person, and I was just kind of feeling lazy. I spent more money than I probably should have, but it was really good, so treat yourself, I guess. The next day, I talked with another friend from college who I also don't get to talk to that frequently. And honestly, every time I talk to this person, I end up feeling so much better. Like this time they offered some really kind and insightful advice about reframing your thinking so that instead of thinking about your behaviors as good or bad, look at them as functional or non-functional for yourself. And instead of feeling like you have to change based on some outside standard, looking inward and saying, is this working for me and do I feel the need to change? After that phone call, I spent some time on Instagram and stumbled upon this post by Dodie and got inspired, so I took some shadow nudes myself. Here I go, leaking my own shadow nudes on YouTube. And then that night I read a lot and planned out the various ways that I would be productive the next day. And I did it! The next day I was super productive. I woke up, I made myself breakfast, I cleaned up a lot of the dishes and stuff that I had just let accumulate in my room and in the kitchen. I finally filmed a video about creativity that had been swirling around in my head for a month. And then I went outside for the first time all week, and it was glorious. I was originally planning on just walking to the closest Aldi for my groceries, but then I was thinking about it and realized I would rather give my money to local businesses. So instead, I took a completely empty tram to get to the prahran, I don't know, market. And part of it is a farmer's market with produce and stuff, and then part of it is shops. And there's this one shop there that I really particularly love. It's got a bunch of vegan stuff, organic stuff, health conscious stuff. It's even got kombucha on tap, which I really love. So I bought some kombucha and other like snack type stuff, and then I also got a bunch of ingredients for baking because I've had 3 things that I've always wanted to learn how to make, and one of them is bread. So god damn it, I'm going to learn how to bake bread during this quarantine. Also, just as a tip, whenever I go there, I always go later on in the day because there is almost always somebody selling all of their leftover fruits and stuff for very cheap. So, pro tip. When I got home, I unpacked all of the stuff I had bought, and I immediately realized that I didn't even really need to go grocery shopping because I had so much food already. And you know, I do always try to eat as healthy as possible, but I think you can probably tell when I have gone full existential crisis mode because I just will surround myself in incredible amounts of health food. And right now I am swimming in kale and chia seeds and various things labeled organic, so I guess that kind of shows you where I'm at emotionally. But it was very nice to finally have a productive day and finally go outside and feel the sun and feel like things are a little more normal and finally feel like I'm not just wasting my life and wasting my time here. And then the last day of my first week of quarantine, I spent pretty much the entire day just editing my creativity video. I had some effects that I wanted to add that I hadn't tried before, so it took me a bit to learn some of those effects and figure out how the program works and get comfortable with it. But by the end of the day, I was almost completely finished editing that Am I Creative video, which I'm very proud of, and you should watch if you haven't already because I spent a lot of time on it. So yeah, that's what I got up to during my first week of lockdown. It's definitely been a difficult adjustment for me. I'm incredibly grateful that I have so many amazing friends who I can talk to over the phone and over video chat, but I'm a very social person by nature, and I particularly am very physical. I'm very physically affectionate with all of my friends, so to not be able to do that is kind of killing me. I'm also a very anxious person, so a lot of my free time is spent just worrying that all of my immunocompromised friends are gonna die. And that's not a fun feeling, which is why I'm making these videos, because I think if I can take this time every week to reflect on what I did last week and put that on the internet, I think that will help me stay accountable to myself and hopefully accomplish some of those goals and spend a little less time just being sad and anxious. I guess for me, it's been a big process of letting myself feel the sadness and the anxiety and whatever else I'm feeling, and then choosing to focus on the stuff that I'm still able to do. The stuff that I've been telling myself I'm gonna do for forever and just never had the time or the motivation to do. The stuff that will help me become a better person, the person I want to be in the long term. This is the time to focus on that kind of stuff, and I encourage other people to do the same as well. Through all of it, I guess we all just gotta keep on reminding ourselves that this crisis is going to end. These measures are temporary. We just have to get through it 1 week at a time, 1 day at a time, 1 hour at a time, and we will continue on with our lives. So that's it of my week 1 lockdown lowdown. I can't ever resist a name pun. I'm gonna try to make one of these videos each week. Hopefully I'll get to the point where I'm uploading them on like the Monday or Tuesday after the week I'm talking about instead of an entire week later, but we'll see how it goes. Hopefully I will figure out ways to stay sane, and if I don't stay sane, well then I guess this series is just going to be an in-depth look into my descent into insanity, so that'll be interesting. Yeah, that's it. That's all I have to say. Okay, goodbye.